All right. I want to welcome y'all back to the show. All right. I want to thank everybody for coming through. I was going to do this tonight, but I had some things that came up. So I'm going to do this show right now. And you have to understand at this point, this is the next level of the conversation. The next level of the conversation is based on when you decided to separate, when you decided to leave most of these people alone, when you decided to separate and make your own progress for yourself, when you're not really looking for handouts for anyone else, and when you're definitely not looking for failed men to act like they're actually the people that you should turn to make sure that your life moves forward. Today's episode, we're going to talk about cool uncles, the next generation. Before we get started, shout out some people in the chat who showed up publicly. What's going on, AO? She, we're here. Cynical One, Bob, LOM, Rona Unsun, Jermaine Taylor. Make sure that you hit the like button upon coming in so that way we can get into this very important conversation. So that way you can be able to understand why it's important that you understand this concept going forward. Because I understand these concepts, but I don't let people know what I'm thinking. And I don't really explain things all that well, at least to some people think that I don't. However, the things that I lay down in this conversation, you're going to be able to see over and over again as you go forward within this space. What's going on, Matthew? What's going on, Jantos Clutch? All right, let's start this off. Cool uncles, the next generation. The cure for misunderstood loneliness is not codependency. I'm going to repeat that. The cure for misunderstood loneliness is not codependency. Codependency is its own type of loneliness. But I'm not talking about codependency as in escorting you into a relationship that you've been quote unquote going to game somebody through. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about codependency as in not really handing the people who are lost solutions so that way they create a level of codependence upon them as a person that's not really giving them any type, and I mean any type of substance. You have to understand growing up within these environments where substance has been bred out, has never been listened to, has never been liked, has never been done anything for. The only thing that counted for substance is compromise, continuous compromise. That's what meant the substance. How much you can fraudulently flaunt and give away temporarily to a person that is eventually going to figure out what you're doing and eventually try to take it all away from you is how this culture is kind of set up. You have to understand it. If you have strong father figures, strong grandfather figures, strong mentors, a nice support group, they would not escort you into codependency as an answer for anything. You got to love these brand new people who come in with brand new names trying to derail the conversation. This is what we're talking about. If you can't stay on subject, remove them from the chat immediately. And if you cannot do that, I will remove wrenches from everyone. This is what this conversation is about. And you will keep it on task and on subject. And if you cannot do that, then I suggest you get the fuck out of my goddamn chat. Period. So let's keep going. With this cool uncle piece, you have to understand that most of these people do not have kids. Most of these people do not have outcomes to which they're teaching. Remember, we had a 50-year-old guy make it in his 50s by telling a woman that she wasn't shit. Remember that? Remember that? And all of a sudden he became a cultural leader for leading men back to a fucking woman, the worst type of women that didn't deserve another chance. I guarantee you, if your grandfather was still alive, if your father was still alive, understanding these type of women would not be at the top of the ticket for you. Productivity would be able to do that. But see, a lot of people wasted their time. They literally wasted their entire life waiting for another individual to come and give it to them rather than them go out to work for it for themselves. A lot of these individuals came through to misunderstand basic principles of masculinity and expected to outsource that masculinity to entertainers in order to be able to display it for them. An entertainer is only there to leverage the collective ignorance of the audience and provide you a false result. This is why Malcolm X have always said entertainers should not be leading us anywhere because an entertainer would say anything in order to keep his audience that they built. But men who build don't require an audience. They could just display the actual outcomes of such, talk in simple language and terms on how to get it, give you the actual information, and watch you go forward with it. There is clearly no way in the world, and I mean no way in the world, that failed men have come to lost men to give them the solutions on how to make it. They came here with the gospel to teach you how to be their current customer. This is why you have so many well educated lawyers and all this shit within the space among lost men. You go back to their field, you ask their field about these individuals. They're like, yeah, this is the guy that wasn't successful here. So he decided to play T ball level sports. T ball level sports, it's not the major leagues. You can be a guy who go plays T-ball at 16 years old. You look mentally incompetent trying to play those games. But if you ask this individual, what have they actually produced within the field that they're actually in, they have no answers to anything. A lot of these people in the medical field, especially in law enforcement, the psychological arena, they know that this type of information being put out by failed men is a bad idea. What's going on? No excuses, ENT. They know it's a bad idea. They know it's a bad idea for guys who skip the productivity piece and just want to be seen on camera talking about their level of successes or even failure. They know this is a bad idea because the only thing you have to do is take it from the online environment and take it to a city environment. How many people do you see in your city? I mean, in your city where you come from, trying to sell the average youth on the actual ability to get with broken women and try to team up broken women and broken men together to create some sort of familiar result that's never been tried before. This is something that would never be tried in any one city. This isn't this isn't anything that is ever tried in anyone's town. This isn't anything that's ever tried in any city council meeting. This isn't anything that is ever tried anywhere. You want to know why? Because if you try to perpetuate this level of fraud onto people, you would be ran out of this room very quickly. Now, a lot of these people come here to this space, and I mean the space in general, to actually pretend like they have all of this information that they want to give to other people. This information that they give out without any qualifications, without any certifications, without any background of achieving results, because it allows a person to come here to lie about their past and to pretend like they have the answers toward the future. That's what this is. That's the great thing about this is achieving all of this attention for the actual result of not being held responsible for these things that you're escorting people into. I mean, doctors have a Hippocratic oath. If you're in law enforcement, you sign a different type of oath. If you're in the psychological arena, you sign a different type of oath. But an entertainer by trade doesn't sign any type of oath. The only oath that they have is, I got to get the audience bigger. No matter what I have to say, no matter what I have to hide behind, I get to leverage as much foolishness as I possibly can around most people who are lost as I possibly can to achieve my own result. And yes, there are always the false prophets that shut down every single organization. Most organizations that I was into in Mississippi, I've told this a ton of times about how I go into these organizations, mostly nonprofits. Things will be working very well. Then all of a sudden you would have people buy their way onto the board. Next thing you know, people get compromised by the money and the paychecks rather than the work that's being done. Then all of a sudden, the actual mission of the nonprofit is corrupted by the individuals who never should have been involved in the first place. Yeah, but that's clearly what that is. You have to understand that people who's trying to talk about relationships with individuals with no credentials are the greatest threat to men and women here within this space. They are the greatest threat of people within this space because talking about relationships without providing a level of pre-approved personnel who's going to adhere to some type of standard is a false prophet, period. It doesn't take a whole lot of intelligence to talk to broken people and to try to help them with their actual issues that you cannot verify within the time that you're actually listening to them. There would not be, because before, teleconferencing with people over the phone for an actual psychological issue to be treated before COVID was a non existent type of issue. This is why you never seen licensed, bonded, and insured psychological profession based individual try to remote diagnose and cure individual of their illnesses from an actual observable interview online. You have to understand that. That used to be something that was very much looked down on within that actual space. So what you have to realize at this point that you have to participate in society. Your cool uncles of the next generation, they are the future failures who know they don't have a place in the future. So they've come back to the present day to try to make themselves look like they're the actual individuals that should be paid attention to. Cedric Well, thanks for the $20 super chat. The space is saturated with dudes that cannot see past their own failures and unable to provide content outside of the relationship failure. Correct. 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 I don't want my highest achievement to be complaining about women. I don't want my highest achievement to be deciding that I did not decide to understand how politics work. I didn't decide to actually focus on the productivity piece. I didn't decide to actually make sure things are right within my own household. I didn't decide to outsource my quote unquote community responsibilities to everybody else doing all the job for me. I don't want to be known for that type of stuff. But when you've been raised in an environment where you are devoid of substance, you begin to think that the whole world operates like the place that you were raised in. Don't forget, I was that person too. I was that person too at some point. And then I was exposed to a new environment where things actually did work. Yeah, once I left Mississippi, went to the basic training process, went to Germany, went to an actual socialist country that they claim that is so bad, where actual equality is an actual thing. Equal access to public service is an actual thing. And you see how things work appropriately when everybody has a level playing field. It doesn't get written off as, oh, well, things are just bad. I'm like, no, 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 no. You don't want to fight for anything in the future to be any better. You want to accept things as they are. It doesn't take a lot of intelligence to accept things as they are. How many times have you ever talked about doing something in the future that requires leaving a specific environment and your own people around you try to shut you down based off of that? They try to tell you how things are not possible based on that. They try to talk you out of your idea quicker than they can actually analyze what the actual idea is. This is not external. This is internal, by the way. You're right, Roger Spice. They do want to be eternal victims. But as I said many and many times before, men don't make good victims, especially men who focus on relationships, especially men who actually gets away from the productivity piece, especially men who don't want to produce, especially men who beg for submission out of women who are already taken care of by the government. And they expect those women out of their depth and level of loyalty to give up their power to focus on weak ass men who can't even provide what the government gives them, which isn't a lot, by the way. It's never that much that the government's actually giving these people. You are correct, Johnny Blaze. You have to get out and travel. So that way you can see how other environments operate. I used to think the whole world operated like Mississippi. I really did. I really did. Until I went to basic training in San Antonio, Texas. And I seen how great of a city San Antonio was. Going to Dallas, seeing how great that city is. I'm like, wait a minute. These cities are still in the South. They're still in red areas. How can there be this great amount of opportunity in these areas where I was socialized to think there was no hope of things even working? The only thing was those individuals never left that environment. It was the starting point. Dude, anybody can make claims at the starting point. Anybody can. It's really not that hard. The starting point is where you risk nothing. You don't risk anything at the starting point. After I left Mississippi and I came back from my 20th year class reunion, the same individuals that I left on the street corner 20 years ago were older men who were still on the street corner when I came into the city. Those men were still on the street corner, still there, still trying to pretend like they were the bigger and best man out there when all these people were just on disability from the military or just living off or with some woman, and they thought that they was the best man on the planet because they got the end result without participating in the actual process. They really thought that, you know what, I got the maximum without putting in the bare minimum. Therefore, I'm a bigger and better man than you. You've seen it, you've heard it. A lot of these pretend individuals within this space who does this, they come online to spread their gospel of failure among the entire group, trying to tell you about all these mythical benefits that they receive from these women that don't nobody want to be with. People with a lot of education who don't believe in public services. People with a lot of education who need masculinity explained to them in 2023. People with no education but want to hide behind this fake ass prison scholar type of certification that is actually given out by no one. Personnel who actually think because I can get two or three hundred people in a room talking about bitches, I'm so much better than most men in society. You have to understand that this stuff is not that hard to figure out. Granted, if you wanted to figure it out. But see, a lot of people are very comfortable at the bottom and they don't want to expose that they're not really working toward a better future. They want to go back to pre 1960s Civil Rights Act. They want to be able to have the highest complaints about a system that they cannot change and that they want to outsource everything else to individuals to change it for them. Everything was about the infinite ability to outsource this stuff to other people. Again, it's not the women coming around here telling you to be weak. It's not the women coming around here telling you to not be on your stuff. It's not the women. It's not the white man. It's not any of that stuff. These people have decided on their own that they're going to lose on purpose. They're going to decide that trolling is an actual level of legitimate communication because they cannot comport with the rest of the world. They came here to create their own echo chamber of failure where they look up to abject fools online as the ability to play out their own masculinity before them on their own behalf. Trust me, if you're any type of intellectual, you can freely actually discuss your actual issues online. That's what intellectuals do. Intellectuals don't mind chopping it up, having a conversation, coming toward a specific sort of solution, and moving on. Actual intellectuals don't have problems doing that. But somehow within this space, these people want to be as ignorant as possible behind closed doors, but on camera with their actual face for some dumbass reason, and keep pushing out the same level of ignorance over and over again. They do. But they only do it because they want to be an unchecked bitch in a man's space. That's the only problem that they wanted to do. They wanted to be an unchecked bitch in a man's space. They wanted the rights of the same woman that they have not actually won a victory over amongst other men who are actually working. I'm like, look, if you want the rights of the woman, just stay over there with them. There are dudes online who specifically talk to women that they cannot fix, talk to women that they cannot help, talk to women that are way more powerful than them without even lifting their hands. There are men who do this within this space. There are men who talk about the black community and pro black and all this stupid shit with no accomplishments, no ability to actually bring forth their actual solution unless everyone else gives up everything that they earn so that way they can have their reality set. You have men who do that here, and they do it without upholding any level of minimum standards. So you have to realize that you can't have progress without principle. You can't have progress without principle, without a minimum set of rules. You can't coordinate with people if you don't know what the end plan is. Like you can't have any level of progress with that. But this is what the cool uncle of the next generation is purposefully doing. They don't stand for any type of ability to want a specific result. They're waiting on the next thing to happen in the media so that way they can be able to curve that into their actual ecosphere for whatever reason that they want to. And you can't blame the audience because the audience don't want to get personally involved with fixing any of these things themselves. This is clearly what this is about. So when people try to say that we should engage with the white manosphere or we should engage with all these people, you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to move the fight to another area that doesn't include them. They want you to go fight other people rather than getting their shit together and coordinating in house so that way you can go and talk to those people. I talk to people in the white manosphere all the fucking time. They know that they cannot talk about most issues of progress in front of their own fucking people. They know that. They know as soon as you bring a black person on, all this incessant, childish ass fucking trolling or trying to be pro white or bringing up some stupid ass shit online that ain't got nothing to do with the conversation. They know that's exactly what happens the moment that these different groups interact. These people go from nameless, faceless individuals in the chat to fucking running their goddamn mouth as soon as a person comes online who's not part of their fucking group. The same thing happens in the opposite manner too. The moment you try to have a person a simplistic conversation about something very focused, all of a sudden these supposed dumbass pro-black motherfuckers come out of the woodwork trying to curve the conversation into their ecosphere to try to disrupt the conversation. So that's the issue. It's not that people are afraid to engage. People are engaging. It just doesn't include the people who can't engage. Because most of these people who want to see a fight, you don't bring them to a level of negotiation with the other side. That's the problem. These people don't even have their own shit together, but they want to conversate with other fucking groups so that way they can be able to have conversations and have these battles for no reason. We ain't even got our own shit together, but you want to advance the conversation to speak with other people who potentially do have their shit together or don't have their shit together. Anything to outsource. Anything to outsource this shit. to the next level that doesn't include them. But they think that they're going to benefit off of a conversation that's going to be had with other people. This is what these things are. Yeah, because productive people can always work together. Most of these groups, veteran based groups that I'm a part of, no, you have to bring something to the table in order to join the group. And just being in the military ain't good enough. We got to check you out. We got to check your credentials. We got to make sure that you bring something to the group other than trying to leverage our credentials for something else that we don't even know is going to happen. This is how this works when you work with other groups. You have to bring something to the table in order to join. Most of these people are at the bottom is because they don't have anything to actually leverage to another group. Yes, it's a redirected conversation. It's a redirected conversation that is redirected from a lack of productivity. Because here's the thing, if you got your shit together, why would you want to give it to somebody that you know don't respect and love you? That you know is not cultured to even be with you? Why is all this conversation centered around women that you don't want to be around? That you don't like, that you don't love, that you claim that you don't want? How can a whole conversation be around women that you don't want to be around? How can that be the case? So let's look at it from this angle. Do you know how easy it would be for a person who would come to the quote unquote manosphere if they were black? Look, if you got your shit together, we're gonna find your wife in Panama or Africa or Asia or anywhere else. If a dude who was white, you know what? If you have your shit together, we're gonna get you a wife from Europe or Eastern Europe or anywhere else. Why do you think that that hasn't happened yet? That hasn't happened yet because most of these people in this online space do not have their shit together to even move to another place. And yes, my situation works is because I pay for social isolation. That's right. It's not just bringing somebody over here from another place, it's being able to afford to be able to protect and socially isolate a person from the actual environment that is normally not suited towards success. And that's why it works for me. And a lot of people don't understand that as a man, you don't deserve to be waiting to be betrayed. Women don't push betrayal onto other men. Other men push betrayal onto other men. That's right. Other men push betrayal onto other men. Bottom feeders and male hyenas push this level of socialized betrayal onto other men. Men who cannot hunt for their own way of things being solved and resolved push the level of betrayal onto other men. The moment you bring up standard, it's never the women who's telling you. It's never the women who's telling you that you can't have this or you can't have that. It's other men telling you that it don't work. And it will never work. Why? It works. What's the use of bringing somebody over here and putting them in an environment in a one bedroom apartment? She may or may not speak the language, no job, and she's around a bunch of hungry ass reptiles. What do you think is going to happen? Yeah, it's going to be in an environment to where they're going to be put in a level of hyper survival and they're going to be with those individuals. Why? Because betrayal is quite normal within this environment. Doesn't matter where you're from. Doesn't matter where you're from. If you escort a person into a level of high betrayal environment, they become what the environment is. And it doesn't even take that long for that to happen. Yes, strategic isolation, but for a specific result. But when you bring this up to individuals, it sounds like a foreign language to them. That you, oh no, you have to be able to bring this individual around us, and she have to survive around us in order for you to be happy. And I'm like, that's not the case. That's not true. That's not true at all. Can it work within the same environment? Maybe it can, but it doesn't be able to have the same level of effect. This is why you have to start with culture first when picking. A lot of people don't want to start with culture first. They want to start with proximity first. Proximity first never works unless the actual environment is protective of all individuals within an environment. And you have to have the men and the women work together in order to protect those things in said environment. Think about it. Your cool uncle, I'm talking about the one from the previous generation. I'm talking about the cool uncles from 1970 to 2020. I'm talking about those level of cool uncles. They never ever push that. And the cool uncles of the next generation, we talk about 2020 forward. The reason why they're not pushing that is because they're trying to turn your ass into a permanent customer. A permanent customer based on your coached and encroached ability to be escorted into codependency. Yes. Now you're in a level of codependency. You went from misunderstood loneliness, which is you're trying to be the choice of people who don't know how to choose. You went from that to false representation and codependency. Now you have to tune in every time one of these relationship shows are on. Now you have to tune in every single time that a woman is saying some whack ass shit online. You have to tune into it. Why? You traded one level of codependency for another. You expected people to see you in an environment where they have all their needs met, which is a pretty dumb idea. Let's keep it real. So you go from that level of wishing upon a star based codependency to having a fake and false voice for you level of codependency. Where you have nameless, faceless, accomplishmentless men who's going to actually help you with things that they've never done themselves by gaslighting you to infinity with improper women that you don't want to be with. None of these individuals talk about the women that you should be with. None of these individuals are with women that you should be with. The conversation is not centered around women who you should be with. The actual conversation is centered around women that you should avoid. Imagine if you were to watch SportsCenter and they only covered the losing teams all the time. They never covered any of these successful teams. They never covered these teams that went to the playoffs. They never covered teams that actually went to the Super Bowl. They never covered any of that. Do you understand with a broadcast megaphone that large, you would think that the actual thing that you need to be concentrated on is fail people to be better. You would actually think that that's the actual focus of the actual program. If they took out success as part of the actual dynamic, if they actually took out most of those things, if they never focused on the highest scorer, the highest achiever, these type of things. But this is the actual creation of the echo chamber. The creation of an echo chamber for failed men, for child support dummies and people who have consistent and ongoing issues with the women that they consistently complain about, talking about those issues. You don't have individuals whose life actually turned out great, even having a platform here. Why? This is a den of fucking losers. Now, some individuals would say they won't say it to my face, and they won't come up on a live stream and actually explain it. They would actually say, because I'm not good at emotionally messing with men to the point to where I can shake dollars out of them, then my message is not important. My message is the message of actual working communities. My message is the actual message of working operational families. My message is the actual message of people pursuing power and success. And if you expect my message to penetrate the minds of those individuals who came here purely for entertainment, then something is truly effing wrong with you. This is why this is the next level of the conversation. The next level of the conversation is about taking action. Because once you take action, you begin to understand that your cool uncle and this magical ass thinking that he tried to socialize upon you doesn't work in the real world the moment you start taking action. Yep, very true. And you have to understand that this level of socialized failure is a choice. These people are jealous of the actual fact of all these opportunities that you have here, that you have access to. They're jealous of that stuff. Dude, they got to shut this down because if younger men get to the productivity piece, they start to be more disciplined with their actual sexual faculties and they don't follow the ability to walk headfirst into the failures of the previous generation, they become better than those individuals before them. Again, we have the inverted pyramid going. Most pyramids, when it comes to culture, is about creating a better use of productivity, a better use of participation in the last culture. Let's go to the 20, 40, 60, 80 model. You created a ground floor where things actually work. Once your son or daughter gets to be 20, they actually reproduce that culture and they bring the kids that they have in a functional working society that they came from. They pass that on to their actual children with the relationships that they form. They're 40 years old now. Those kids are now 20 years old. Those kids who are 20 years old have practiced the social isolation piece, have kept their productivity to themselves, have created a better future for their actual kids. Now those people are 60 years old. They now have two generations of created results, purposefully created results that they can see before their actual eyes. And those individuals are far more successful than the people at the 60-year point. Now they're 80 years old. They're about to be on their way out. They created levels of sustainable success from now 3 generations. Everybody's gotten to the money. The actual individuals within that actual system and society have decided to separate themselves away from individuals who don't know how to do anything. And now the future is in good hands. Why? You have a self sustaining model. Are there going to be kids that fall out of that model? Absolutely. But when kids fall out of that model, you know what you do? You cut their ass off. You cut their ass off. You cut them out. You make sure that there's actually social ramifications for not adhering to a level of rules. You have to ask yourself, where at on this model, where at on this business level that you're actually on? What part of the business model did I just lay down? Because family is business. So it makes absolutely no sense to make family and acquaintances with throwaway women or throwaway men. It doesn't make any sense. You think your cool uncle is going to socialize that level of return on investment from deliberate action? You really think that? You really think that? And here's the thing, you don't even have to be raised by that in order to create that. And once I start bringing up these actual standards that are very simple, doesn't leave a whole lot of room for uncultured people, does it? It doesn't leave a whole lot of room for the whole phase that men want right now. Doesn't leave a whole lot of room for individuals who focus on women that you don't want to be with at the end of the day. Doesn't leave a whole lot of room for that, is it? Hmm. You have to understand that now that when they talk about the actual level of wealth collectively, this 2053 nonsense. No, they're talking about the collective wealth, but there are going to be a lot of individual successes, a lot of cultural individual successes that's going to be way better than the people that's here now. That's going to be way better than me here now. Once a collection of individuals get their money together and decide to go retake the South, because that is the greatest misuse of land in the United States, is the actual South. Once they start going down there and buying up cities and towns and making their own Silicon Valleys and making sure that most of these things operate properly and cutting out individuals that has nothing to do with the actual progress of the entire group there, once they start being very protective of their actual seeds and eggs, by the way, once they start being that level of protectiveness, you don't have time for the victim mindset in a system that works. The people with the victim mindset was never meant to reproduce. The people with the victim mindset state was never meant to have a whole bunch of kids. They were never meant to do that. Silent generation, they told you how protective people was of their actual children and who they actually gave it to because the circumstances made sure that you didn't have enough time for all this nonsense. You had to care about the future if you wanted to be part of the group. If not, then the 70s came. 70s came, black exploitation came. Everybody wanted to be Shaft and Goldie the Mac. Shaft and Goldie the Mac has been the standard for the actual black environment for a very long time. Those were the cool uncles of yesteryear. Those were the cool uncles from 1970 to 2020. Those are the braggadocio people who just wanted to do things without any type of cause or reality. Like that was a failed era. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But then again, you're going to take a new group of people in order to do this with. You're not doing this with these people. You have to purposefully set out to make sure that this cool uncle of the next generation is having less and less influence over your life. And yes, a lot of you are going to fail in the process of getting this done. But for the people who succeed, they're going to be way better off as a collective than most people at any time in this country. Because once you create a successful system and you have the ability to kick those people out of said system, you're going to maintain what you built. But if you allow those people to come in with no standards, you allow those people to hide in education who don't produce any type of result, you're going to have the same actual things that you have right now. Because look, I can explain my issues in front of any type of audience, but can they explain their results in front of any type of audience? They can't do it. They have to hide. They have to have these standoffish level of conversations. They want an echo chamber of failure. They don't care overall about the things that they're trying to create. I do. I do care about the things that I'm trying to create. This is why the conversation goes to the next level. Next level, you got to choose a side. Next level, you got to put something on the table. Next level, the next level of the conversation. I'm talking about after you left this stuff alone. You got to be able to do something. You were socialized into showing your work from a person who never showed any work outside of checking a bitch. That's the work we saw. Did we see what he did during the last 50 years? Fuck no, we didn't see that. Why? Why it never mattered. Strong fair play, Saban. But this is currently where we at, though. The people who are not taking advantage of the things in society that is set before them is going to fail. And yes, if you love these people, you will let them fail. If you love them, you'll let them fail. And you won't help them until they have a plan to get out of their own circumstances. I remember when my grandfather used to have these people fall out of other cities, come back to town, one of the properties to stay on. Grandfather be like, "All right, let's have a meeting. Why don't you tell me how you screwed this up?" And you're gonna tell my grandson how you screwed this up, so that way he don't screw it up. Okay, you did this. Okay, so what did you do with that? How did that end up? How did that fail? Very hard conversations, but for the individual to have, but it wasn't hard for me to listen to. There was a adding somebody to the team that didn't belong there aspect of it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right. Once you start seeing the pattern, The pattern was the same. The pattern was the same. He or she thought she could avoid the consequences of individuals that they put on their team that they knew wasn't going to work out. They thought that their level of productivity was high enough that they can multiply and divide by zero, not understanding putting some snake on your team because he's popular with everybody else is multiplying and dividing by zero. Putting an uncultured woman on your team because of looks and not operational capacity is multiplying and dividing by zero. Caring about what people think when they don't have their own shit together is multiplying and dividing by zero. You reset your own progress because you were too afraid to leave these people behind. These people did not want to be a part of your system. You invited them in freely. And it's not like you didn't see throughout society what everybody else was going through once you invited these people into your group. Again, we don't have the numbers. We don't have the numbers to be wasting on individuals that do not deserve to have time wasted upon them. We don't have the numbers. No one functions from operational capacity. Everybody try to operate from a racial capacity. We don't have the numbers for a racial capacity. We don't have a culture for that. Hell, white culture don't even have the numbers for that either. See, the actual danger in this situation was a lot of people got access to the wrong type of information. And they was practicing it on individuals who knew better. They knew better. But when you're the only person at the bottom, you think that you ain't got nothing to lose because you're at the bottom. Now what happens when everybody else start to come in and show you how much that you're not doing with your bottom level circumstance? What do you do at that point? Or you can do like what these people did. They decide to redirect. Again, redirecting their anger from not having their shit together and not being with the woman that don't want to be with them. They decide to redirect their anger onto women. They decided to redirect that anger onto immigrants. They decided to redirect that anger onto the LGBT community. They decided to redirect that anger toward the Democratic Party. They decided to redirect that anger toward complaining about bitches online. They decided to redirect that anger toward everything else but what is their responsibility. And these people ain't even trying to fight you, and you still trying to fight them. Gay people don't have conversations about black people. They don't give a fuck about that shit. But who the fuck is talking about them every 5 minutes? Y'all are. Then you make them organize against you even tougher, especially when they see you ain't doing shit. You ain't doing shit but talking shit. They just organize even better and lock your ass out of your own shit. They come into your land of opportunity and gentrify you out of your own shit. Now you want to protect the area for fucking losers rather than shit getting gentrified. Why? Didn't connect to the productivity piece. These people are looking at you like fucking clowns. What type of person want a protected level area of failure with no ability to move forward? They watch these people fight for this. Why they skilled up and moved clearly ahead of these people and took their land anyway? The only thing you have to do is ask them, when is this trip over? Or explain to me your results. Explain to me your results. Explain to me your plan. What are you going to do once you get to this woman that you know you ain't supposed to be with? What are you going to do when she finally submits to you? What are you going to do once you get access to something that you know clearly that you shouldn't be having? What are you going to do with that? Dude, you can fight your whole life for a false cause as long as you never receive the result of a false cause. And the cause is so false that everybody else is watching you do the same shit. They just start to slowly move away from you. They slowly move away from you and leave you to your own devices, and they watch you complain about things that you know was never going to work. Yes, $30,000 in a year in the South without having kids, you can have a good outcome. Yes, you can. Just so long as you don't get nobody pregnant in that motherfucker and you ain't got nobody breaking in your shit because you're trying to put big ass rims on your fucking ride, you can have a good outcome out there. That's a lot of good. There's a lot of people living well in the South. They had to separate. They had to socially isolate. Dude, there's a lot of people in Leland, Indianola, Greenwood, Cleveland. Dude, there's a lot of people out there living extremely well, driving 45 minutes to an hour to work. Why? Connected themselves to the productivity piece and socially isolated. Those are the two things. Those are the two lessons that the cool uncle cannot give you. Yeah. The women you don't want to be with is telling you, okay, you productive now what? Dude, a key ticket to leave them the fuck alone and not even listen to what they got to say after that. If a woman negates the minimum that you're supposed to bring to the table as something that is nothing at all, then you need to leave them the fuck alone. Period. Easy as that. They can't be a problem to you until you bring them in your house. They can't be a problem to you. They can't be a problem to you. This is an external problem that you brought inside of your house when you know the outcomes of it. And you're using your cool uncle as an excuse to do shit that you know that you shouldn't be doing. But by all means, outsource this shit to people who never really cared about you. They never really cared. What's the track record of them caring or giving a damn? Where's the actual general society bringing these people on and bringing these people by to actually have them talking about shit of substance? The only thing you can do is create your own ecosystem of failure at this point. That's what this shit is. Ecosystem of failure at this point. Ecosystem of failure. Cyclical, very predictable failure at this point. All because you want to be appreciated without the work. That's right. You think people are stupid? They're not that dumb. They see you want to be appreciated without the work. That's why they give you your false ass comments after you do some dumbass shit because they know what you own. They know what you own. They're gonna watch you eventually fail, and they're never gonna hire you into their organizations. And then you're gonna be complaining about things that you shouldn't be complaining about. When all this stuff is a socialized, cyclical level of failure that you decide to chase down, that you wanted to make work when you knew damn well you never seen it work anywhere else? Who has been saved by the gospel of the bitch ass nigga? Could you please tell me? Could you please, dude? I pull out a calculator. Where are these? Where are these success stories from the gospel of the bitch ass nigga? Where are these people at? Where are they? Where are they? So you mean to tell me that you're supposed to go out and get all your shit together and then give it to people who never gave a fuck about you? Is that what you want? That's what you want? Because you want to quote unquote put it in their face. No. You're a success story the moment that you don't have to pay attention to them at all. That's the moment you are a success story. The moment that you can disappear off the planet, out of their realm of influence. Because here's the thing, they can't touch you if there's no proximity. That's what the social isolation piece is about. That's why purposefully leaving your ass away from these things, that's what that's about. You don't get to be a permanent customer at that point. You could just go from point A to point B and you're done. You don't have to keep repeating the process. You don't have to keep trying to improve the level of stand. No, you've already left. Input equal output. If you want a different outcome, you got to use different people. You want the same outcome, you're going to use the same people. It's not hard. And yes, you have to do exactly what the women did. The women decided, you know what? I'm going to invest and give attention to this bitch ass nigga and I'm going to get everything that I want. Looking at it from her point of view, that's not a bad deal. At the end of the day, they wanted a ton of freedom with no responsibilities. The bitch ass nigga was going to be the person who gave it to him. The cool uncle was going to be the person who culturally coached that into the men. Yes, it's that easy. You're deciding this on your own. You're doing this on your own. Yes. The same people who came online complaining that they didn't want to be cleanup men wanted to exclusively go after the women that they would have to clean up after. Does that make any sense? Wait a minute. It means that your ass wanted to be a cleanup man pretty good. You wanted to watch her fail, watch her come to you for help and assistance, and then you wanted to be an empowered cleanup man. Because if these women actually didn't mean shit to you, you wouldn't be worried about what they're saying. You wouldn't be worried about what they're doing. You would clearly move on to different inventory. But you can't fucking do that, can you? Because this is where you want to be. And you want the excuse from your cool uncle of tomorrow to lead your ass into this eventual success. This is what you wanted. But see, you were too cowardly to fucking say this is what you wanted. Now the world knows not to fuck with you. The world see who you look up to as leaders and they avoid all of them. Yes, they know who these people are. They're not bringing them around their kids. They're not doing that. Dude, the cool uncles, the next generation, dude, listen. The people who made money off of those movies ain't the people who live the outcomes of those movies. They gave you entertainment as a level of participation for you, and you practice this bullshit on your own and messed up your own lives and community based on what you've seen on TV. They're not responsible for that shit. You are. Can't say that's their fault. Can't say it's a black thing. You wanna know why? This hip hop being played in all these small ass towns, they got the same outcomes that you got. Yeah, the same outcomes that you got. Now they're not locking up people wholesale like there was in the crack era, but the crime is out of control in those areas as well. Their cool uncles are a bit different than the cool uncles over here in the black space. Their cool uncles are actually redirecting their anger and hatred toward, you guessed it, other unsuccessful black people in the same mirrored circumstances that they're on. It's the same. There's no difference between rural America and non-progressing black people. There is no, no difference. Absolutely no difference. Absolutely no difference. Absolutely no difference. It's the same. That's the problem. A lot of these non-progressive dudes have a lot in common with rural America. They live in rural America. They live on their homestead act land. They complain about jobs not being there. They refuse to fucking skill up. The women do whatever the fuck they want to, and they just put up with it. It's the same thing. The same outcomes, the same music, the same outcomes. They're watching the same movies. It's the same. The same. It's not different. It's the same. And you got the cool uncles in this space who's trying to tell you that you can go down there to the Capitol and do the same thing. You got cool uncles within this space who's telling you, who's trying to motivate you to take your ass down there to do what them dudes did. You take your ass down there and you try to grab power like those dudes did, it ain't gonna be nothing but top ramen and tomato paste all over the place. That's what it's gonna be. If you take your ass in there and not follow the process correctly, depending on who the clientele is, yeah, top ramen and tomato paste. That's what's gonna be all over the place. But see, you're responsible for your own outcomes. You're also responsible for the people who you leave behind. Because a lot of these people deserve to be left behind at this point. Not only the cool uncles are trying to reproduce their failures among the entire populace. That makes sense for them because they are actually all alone. The failed uncles are actually all alone. They have to redirect their actual productivity piece onto the actual YouTube analytics and all this other shit. And look at my monetization and look at how many people I can mislead. Like, yeah, okay, all right, great. But who's inviting you on into their circle to have you mess up their own shit? But that's what these things are about. The cool uncle's the next generation. It doesn't take a lot of skill to be one of these people, man. It doesn't take a lot of skill. It really doesn't. But you have to understand that those who want to teach and exclusively teach truly want to stop people from learning. The history is not that hard. The history of the 80s until the 2000s is not that hard to get. Look at what the people turned to for the productivity piece during the 80s. They turned to the music talking about bullshit. They turned to drugs, how much they were selling on this bullshit. They served all this time in prison and they came out and they blamed the government. The same government that dropped that bullshit there in the first place for them to pick up. Like they were going to be a bigger, better drug dealer and we would have bigger, better outcomes because some reptile who would sell this poison to their own people. If only they were able to do it for another couple of months and years, there would have been a better outcome for everybody. Doesn't make any sense, does it? It wasn't like the mafia. They wasn't building schools and they didn't like clean their money up. No. As soon as they got the money, they flash it in front of your damn face. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm destroying. This is how I'm benefiting. And after they destroyed all the fucking women, they want you to go and clean up after those said women. So that way there wouldn't be a good result. Same people. Same people. Those who have the most complaints take the least amount of action to fix their complaints. hmm Lots of complaints, no action. Lots of complaints, no history study. Lots of complaints, none of that stuff's working. Lots of complaints. People can tell you the top people who had money in the world. They can tell you they can recite lyrics from dumbass songs and they got nothing to do with them. They can do all that. However, can they tell you how much actions that they put into their own shit? They can't do it. Because the moment that they get 2 cents, they got to show off 6 cents worth of progress to other people. And then they expect those people that they know that don't respect them to actually let them go flaunt and floss in front of their face. Well, you know, flaunting and flossing in front of these people's faces is going to make them come after you. You know that by now, right? But that's currently where we at. You can't say that you can't see this shit coming. You definitely see it coming at this point. You mean to tell me that you think these cool uncles, the next generation, they're not socializing people into failures. They are failures, helping other people being comfortable at the bottom. That's exactly what they're doing. It's really not that difficult, not that hard. It really isn't. It's called D Raptor. It's called Charles Mercer. But this is currently where we at. Like none of this stuff is this hard at this point. The progress and the productivity piece is too easy now. You think these other people just coming here are smarter than you? They're not. They're just more applicable to the environment. Mississippi, you got Latinos, Asians, and Arabs moving in there, taking over everything in the area. And these people think that, oh, well, this is supposed to be our protected area. Why are these people coming over here buying up all our stuff? I'm like, do you know with your tax return, with your earned income tax credit amount of money that you get every year, you could have bought up these houses in this community a long time ago. You could have went down there to the office, made a deal for a couple of properties. You could have did this shit a while ago, but you only realized it when other people start taking it away from you. That's the wrong time to worry about it. When it's gone, the wrong time to worry about it. But can't say you don't know. Can't say you don't know at this point. Yes, these people decided that they wanted progress in a specific format. They wanted failed men to lead them to success. That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted. Yes, sir. That's what they wanted. They wanted failed men to lead. Why? Failed men is what reflects their actual ability in the mirror. What they see in the mirror, the reflection in the cracked mirror, what they see is a successful bitch ass nigga. That's what they see. A successful one. A successful one. A person who has got them a Keisha, settled down, did everything that was supposed to happen, laid down the appropriate amount of game, and everything worked. Knowing that they've never seen that be accomplished anywhere on the planet. You have to take responsibility for your own lack of access to things in life. The moment you do that, life starts to change. Will you need help along the way? Of course, I needed help along the way. There's a lot of things that I don't know. I have to call people and I don't know things. But when I call in reinforcements, I want to be like Batman when I call in reinforcement. I just call in reinforcement and just fucking wait. Like, hold on a second. This dude needs help. Who is he calling? You're correct. They sure did. A lot of them traveled states away to go do that. Never left the state for any other reason. But that's what it is. That's what it is. We've made it an ability to not listen to realistic conversations because you want it to be comforted rather than told the truth. You don't have to adjust to comfort. Comfort is its own level of bullshit. The truth, you have to adjust to it. You have to sit there, you have to ingest it, you have to sit there and reflect on it. Then you have to act. Comfort, especially at your current level of ignorance, you don't have to adjust to that. You don't have to. And these same people who are talking about women today will be talking about women tomorrow and talking about women the next day and everything else. Why? It's too easy. Doesn't require any thought. Yep, that's the problem. So at this point, there's nothing to be said about the relationship argument that you don't even already know. You know these actual environments have created sociopaths, environmentally friendly sociopaths that you don't have to deal with, that you don't have to understand. This is why I don't understand the actual need of certain very larger individuals crying on screen talking about incels and shit. You can shut down the process itself by giving these people the truth. Telling people to clean their fucking room ain't got nothing to do with having them move into a better situation. But you can do a lot of shit if you're not providing any value. But that's the problem. People too busy to try out new bullshit rather than trying out things that are consistent that moves along to failure. Knowing isn't doing. The practicality piece is how you demonstrate it, how you're past these things. A lot of these people know all of this information about things that you shouldn't be doing, but have they practiced the ability to dodge them? No, they haven't. They are defined by their failures, clearly defined by them. And they want to spread failure, the gospel of failure, among the entire group that they claim that they want to help. This is what your cool uncle, the next generation, is about. Why do you think most of these dudes came in here to tell you about the gospel of bad women? All of these dudes who are successful here are actually gaming you around your inexperience with said woman, the lack of accomplishment with said woman. I'm talking about the bad one, by the way, and your inability to get your shit together so that way you can afford to socially isolate new women. You have to be able to afford to move yourself away from these problems. This is why you have to go from expecting society to do it for you to you doing it yourself in your time. Not complaining about what the boomers didn't leave you, about what Generation X didn't leave you, none of that shit. Because as of right now, the system that we have right now is better than any other system of shit being left to people, other than assets and resources. Oh yeah, you can clearly go get your shit together now. Couldn't do that shit in the 80s, couldn't do it in the 90s. Maybe you could do it in the early 2000s, but today, 2023, dude, you can move on to a new career couple of months. You can move on to a new career. Yes. The only people are complaining are the people who did not practice. They didn't practice it. They outsourced it. They didn't practice it. They outsourced it. They outsourced it to everyone else. It was everybody else's responsibility to make sure that they succeeded on some pimp hoe shit. It's everybody else's responsibility to correct the environment, to make a better voting system, to make the best type of outcomes for them before they actually get involved. No, that's some shit you have to work towards. You have to work towards that. And you have to coalition with people. All these people are trying to do these things without participating. Doesn't work that way. Yes, the Cleveland Browns and the Patriots had access to the same front office, access to the same draft picks, access to the same personnel decisions, access to the same front management, access to the same everything. One got one level of results and one got another level of results in the same league. You want to be the Cleveland Browns? You want to be 0-16? You want to have that perfect season? You want to have that 0-16 fucking parade that I actually went to, by the way? Because I needed to see these fucking loser motherfuckers go out there and show up for a parade that their team went 0-16. And yeah, it was like an actual parade. That shit was crazy. But you ain't got to be the Cleveland Browns, man. I mean, but they had a lot of good quarterbacks, though. Yes, they did have a parade. What are you talking about, man? They did have a parade. It was a parade, the equivalent of a Manosphere meetup. Pretty much that's what it was. With a bunch of lost, uncontrollable fucking failures wanted to pretend like they had something to teach people. Yeah. But you have to realize the shit is temporary. You start taking actions, you start getting some accomplishments under your belt. This shit will be in the rear view mirror like you wouldn't believe. You have to socialize yourself to not even listen to these type of failures anymore. Again, there's nothing wrong with the manosphere. There's something wrong with the clientele. We know the high level of failure amongst these people in this environment. We know that. Stop saying that there's something wrong with the manosphere. There's something wrong with the clientele of the manosphere. Because the people who are out getting their shit together and getting the shit done, whether they're older or younger, they're not online. They're not online. They're out there living their life. The women who know how to pick dudes, they're not online. They're out there living life, raising their fucking family. They're not out here doing that shit. But I wanted to be able to catch this cycle, which is why I stayed here long enough. So that way, after this stuff eventually went the way that it was going to go, you could be able to teach from the point of failure before the next loop happens. And the next loop is going to happen. But this is where we are. It's really not that difficult, not that hard. But you can move past it. You can individually move past it. You can't move past it as a group. As a group, you're waiting on everybody else to do the work. So that way they can average their actual successes among your zero. That's what these people are waiting on. They're waiting on somebody else to get it done for them. Well, you could just move away, get your shit together, not tell nobody, no Facebook posts, no social media, no showing shit online, no showing where you go to have fun, none of that shit. You don't see me posting shit online about how well shit's going. You don't see me doing no stupid shit like that. Why would I do that? I'm not doing mega recon, man. I'm not doing that shit. So with that said, I want to thank you guys for coming through. Make sure that you like the video among leaving. I'm the man tomorrow. This is the next level of conversation. And you guys have a really nice rest of y'all day. Peace.